All right, let's go to our next speaker because Clinton has all sorts of expertise in this area. Clinton's background, he's a business professional. He's helped lots of businesses succeed in the business world. And he's got, as I said earlier, a wealth of knowledge. He's worked in operations, he's worked as a sales manager. So he's actually seen the whole, from marketing to sales to operations, that whole experience of delivering a service through a business. He's worked for large organizations like Supercheap Auto and Virgin Stadium, and he's worked for lots of smaller businesses. He's also in part of the regional community forums as the Queensland state government. He's a digital consultant with ASBAS, which is a federal government initiative being delivered through FDA in Australia in Queensland. And he is based in Mackay. And so he works with lots of regional smaller businesses and helping them understand how to make this digital transition and set up the key things that you might need in your business. So Clinton, over to you.
Oh, very good. Thanks for that, Amanda. Thanks for everyone for coming on today. It's really interesting seeing what the diverse array of people we have in the room today and listening to the advice that Jen's given there. So, yeah, a little bit of background. I started as a young guy, I suppose. I'm a bit older now, with the Super Retail Group when they had 26 stores, and when I left, we had just on 500. Part of the brand development of BCF in its early days. So it was wonderful to basically see the development of such a large company and organisation that now has about 4 or 5 different types of businesses under their banner, including Rebel Sports. And I was lucky enough to spend some good quality time last year with the owner of Supercheap Auto late last year with Reg Rowe, and just understanding the basics. So I'm going to give you a story about Reg later on in my presentation, just about understanding that we, in these types of economic times, we really do need to look back at the basics of business. So I treat large organisations, international organisations, just like I would a sole trader or a not-for-profit. One of the things that I really do hone in on is getting people to understand the digital economy, what the digital economy actually is, and how can I actually present my digital, my business online. So it's most important that you understand what the digital economy is. And a lot of times if we talk about things like retail, for example, retail is someone walking off the street into a store. And now it's growing to online sales of nearly $1,160 million in the month of June in this country. So what you've got to look at is the opportunity to engage the digital economy correctly. Just want to do the next slide there, Amanda. And part of that is basically the 3 core areas that I look at is engagement, participation, outcomes. You must engage with people to let them know what your product, your service, your business, your brand is, for example. Participation is that interaction, that lead generation online. So many people think that, oh, look, it's not similar at all to being a common day merchant. I like to say in the digital space, you are like a common day merchant, but it's just in the digital space now. Keeping those simple principles and transferring them online. Jen mentioned there before about some building blocks. Part of that building block process is making sure that your brand is consistent and your brand language is actually translated well online as well. Okay, consistently. And getting those outcomes. We want to make sure that if we're investing our time in the digital space, how are we actually measuring our outcomes? For some people, it might be dollar sign. For some people, it might actually be how many sales of a particular product or service. I know online here, for example, we've got some people here in the health space, the NDIS space, for example. I know working with Coofering in North Queensland, which is a North Queensland-based disability service provider, when we transferred them from having no digital presence at all to building up their digital presence in the NDIS space, we wanted to make sure that that transition of their localised type commitment and their delivery was actually translated online as well. So engagement, participation, and outcomes. And that's what I call the Bare Billy basics. Getting back to the basics of what we do in digital. Just like they used to say you could become shop blind, Well, the same thing online as well, making sure that we understand what the bare Billy basics are. Now, when we look at the side, social media, next slide, Amanda, thank you. Social media, for example, many people just think it's putting it on Facebook or putting it on Instagram. If I was speaking to you, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 8 years ago, I would have been saying you need to be on as many social media platforms that you possibly can. Now, we need to make sure that we're on social media platforms that are relevant to our business, that we know that we are going to deliver upon well, and actually taking our time to make sure that we develop those particular social media platforms. Because social media is very different to the digital space in regards to search engines. Next slide. Many of the things that we look at in regards to time-saving mechanisms are tools such as Hootsuite, HubSpot, Sprout Social, and Hero Posts. These particular software packages, for example, are basically social media scheduling tools to allow you to plan your social media. Whether you want to plan your social media, I generally say to people, have at least a bare minimum of a 3-month social media plan, in some cases spanning out to 12 months. And in some cases, depending on the size of the organisation, for example, it might go out to 2 years as part of your digital engagement plan. But these type of platforms will allow your organisation to retrieve back time is money, to make sure that you can actually also measure if your social media platforms are actually working effectively. These particular software, I think Floris mentioned there before about the fact that it's good for the sell. I don't actually have any affiliation with any of these companies, by the way, but it's about what they can do for you. How are you going to be able to integrate this software into your business that's going to see you get a return, cost neutral plus. So these are the type of things that we need to look at. Search engines. If you go and Google yourself, see what you find. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully it's all positive. But sometimes you might not appear at all. And making sure that we understand that search engines are quite different to social media platforms. Even though Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn, they are a search engine as such. An actual traditional search engine or a green search engine like Google, for example, is very, very important. Making sure that we understand that Google My Business, we're feeding information into a search engine space in order to be found. We are feeding the information through to Google. I don't like using the word we're manipulating a search, but when you hear people talking about things like SEO, search engine optimization, and paying hundreds, thousands of dollars for search engine optimization, I'm not a believer in it. I believe that you can manage your own search engine results through having a very thorough Google My Business account and making sure that you're actually posting in there the all relevant information in that search engine on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. That will definitely help you with your search engine optimization, as they say. Websites. I've often had people say to me, because websites are a digital asset, but when you have a website, I'm a very big believer in the fact that you need to make it a workable asset. It has to be a workable asset. You might get that advice of making sure that, when you build a website, making sure it's mobile friendly and responsive, etc. That is relevant, but also make sure that you understand that your website must be a part of your business and treating your website like it's another team member. If you go next slide, Amanda, and one of those things that we do to make it a workable asset is by dropping Facebook Messenger into your website. So if you've got Facebook, if you've got Instagram, and you've got that integration of already having Messenger, make your website a workable asset by allowing people to actually message you to one location. So it's all heading into the one spot. Going back to that, what Jen mentioned before, I love talking about time and time retrieval. I had earlier in the week, I was doing a workshop for a not-for-profit in Queensland, a sporting organisation, the Queensland Rugby League, just under the National Rugby League banner, talking to them about how they create revenue streams. By actually having an active website, for example, and being able to have Facebook Messenger included into your website, people can talk to you directly. You know, it's not just them visiting your website, which is a digital asset, which is a tool. It allows them to talk to you directly. You're creating the lead already by having the website there and published. So really what I've given you a few little, it's a little bit difficult in 7 minutes to sort of fill out the space, etc. But I just gave you a little bit of a snapshot, a little bit of vision in regards to what you can be doing now, which aligns to the bare belly basics of what you should be doing in business to get those digital tools happening, to actually get that engagement happening, to get those outcomes happening.